Space Coconut.
All right, so we'll go ahead and start. Go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself, your experience in the game, like whatever you want to say, and then lead us in with the topic you want to talk about.
My name's NaXon. I play a lot of Killer, but I also play Survivor, and I gotta say I find Killer a lot more fun, but
Mm.
Survivor is definitely a lot easier in the way I play.
Mm.
I think that the main problem I've had is the fact that, like, when I think about changes and trying to propose changes to the developers, I feel like as a community, we're kind of separated into factions of
Mhm.
people who want the game to go towards survivors versus the killers, and people who want killers that are terrifying and like utterly unbeatable. I think that as a community, we need to start trying to figure out what we're willing to sacrifice in order to balance the game, because it's not just one side's problem, it's both sides that are
Mhm.
the issue.
And that's something that a lot of people don't understand about me is that I try to do that, even though I am a killer main. I do kind of see what the garbage that survivors have to deal with, which is kind of the topic of today's video, which was the solo queue and all of that. But um, so what in particular is something that that this falls in line with? Like, what is one particular thing that comes to mind when you're talking about this?
So I, if I just like try to pop up with something in my head, there's a lot of perks to do with hooks and
Hmm.
healing. And the whole idea behind that is you want to make sure the killer can't tunnel, that you're having an enjoyable experience as a
Hmm.
survivor. But as a killer, you're juggling four people, and that can be
Hmm.
overwhelming. So sometimes you just naturally focus one
Hmm.
person. And as a killer, I try not to do that, but also on Survivor, I realized that, hook bombing and just running in and doing all that is careless, and perks that teach you that that's okay seem like they're kind of teaching survivors that they're supposed to do that.
Bad
And perks
habits.
like Noed, yeah, and perks like Noed are teaching new killers that, oh, I should be doing this, or like Rancor teaching you that obsession, if you just leave them till the end, you get a free
Mhm.
kill, which I've never really liked that aspect
It's an,
of
it's an
Rancor.
interesting take on Rancor. I kind of disagree, but I see what you're saying. I think it's easier to point out that kind of stuff on the survivor side because as a killer, if they didn't have the tools that they have to mitigate tunneling and mitigate camping and things like that, the experience would be really, really awful for survivors. It really would be. Borrowed time and decisive strike, while they suck for the killer, they are almost necessary against killers that utilize those tactics deliberately. And if, like, you'll see that if some videos, if a killer realizes there isn't an obsession in the match, they'll know that there's no decisive strike and they could tunnel freely. So some killers will actively do that, and so that is a problem.
Yeah, I get that completely. And as a killer, I do find that I sleep easier when there's no obsession. But like, I think the main thing I'm trying to
Mm.
say, at least, is that to be able to get rid of perks that are annoying on Survivor, we need to get rid of practices that are annoying on Killer. To get rid of perks that are annoying, as a Survivor that the Killer has, we need to get rid of the toxic practices that we're using on Survivor. And it's a two-way street. Both
Mm.
people need to make sacrifices in order to benefit the balance. And no matter if the devs favor survivors, it's going to be bad for killers. If they favor killers, it's going to be bad for survivors. And I think that's a big problem, because the devs are going to get pulled in two different
Mhm.
directions. And as many problems and bad changes they've made, I really have hope that they're going to pull together and do something. But I feel like all the information they're getting, I think we need to make a united front and sort of push them in the direction that we want the game to go in as a community. And we're so separated that they're hearing mixed voices.
Mm. I don't think, honestly, I agree and I see where you're going, but I don't know if that's even possible just because of the nature of people, not necessarily a survivor or a killer, It's like me as a killer, I like playing as killer and I don't like survivor for different reasons. Any changes that impact my side may feel bad, but I do understand that the survivors need it. However, on the survivor side, there are going to be survivors that aren't willing to look at it the same way, where they as survivors understand they have it pretty good in some aspects, and that they still might not be willing to sacrifice things for the benefit of the game overall. And it's not just survivor or killer, that's players as a whole. And so I think the problem isn't necessarily survivor or killer, which in this case it kind of is, but it's more as a player. What are you willing to sacrifice in your play styles on either side in order to bring the game to a healthier point? That's a pretty good point. But what would you suggest to the devs if they were listening to you about that?
I think that there needs to be. I've heard a couple videos. I believe you were talking about it too. That there should be people that are really good at the game being brought in for this sort of thing, because if you have like god tier killers like Atsdarva, he's really good at the game and he knows what he's doing. And then there are on the other side of it, we have these like survivor mains who are really good. I think there's like Noob3 makes a lot of those compilations where he just has fun and messes around. I think that they would do really well just sort of trying to figure out what to balance it on.
Like if two different groups of mains had conversations kind of like what we're having.
Yeah, just put them in a room together,
That's an interesting take.
Because the devs are building the game and they can test it all they want, but I don't think they have the complete mindset of someone who plays Dead by Daylight like actively.
Yeah.
Because, they spend a lot of time building this.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I guess you can say it's kind of like a chef who knows how to cook.
Yeah.
And then they're going to cook this, meat, whatever, I don't know, lamb, whatever. And they're going to test it and say that it tastes good. But once they feed it to people who test and taste lamb for a living, those people are going to be able to tell the chef that this was a little bit off. This was a little bit wrong. You should try this instead of that. And as a chef, they're making the game, they're designing and programming the game. But we as players understand it at a different level. And that's kind of the way that I look at that the devs may know the game from the inside, but the players understand it at a much deeper and less technical level. So I think
we're limited by our experience.
Yeah. I think it ends up coming down to the foundation of the game again. Like every video I make, every conversation I have, it always comes down to the core of the game. And I feel like we can't make any changes like to tunneling or camping or the perks that teach these bad habits until we change the core of the game, which I'm not even sure is possible at this point.
Yeah, Dead by Daylight is a lot of fun, but it takes a lot of mental energy out of me,
Yeah.
Like the more I play it, the more I see things from a different perspective and start wondering about what I could be doing to try and make this fun for the other side, or to try and win a little faster, or just boredom overwhelms me and I just stop having that motivation to try,
And then that's another issue too, where we as players shouldn't be changing our play styles so the other side has fun. It's kind of like those shooters and stuff that we see. Like if what's his face, Shroud goes into a shooting game, right? He shouldn't have to lower his skill level or miss on purpose so the other side has fun. I know it's not the same thing because Dead by Daylight isn't a dedicated competitive game like that, but that's kind of the point. That's kind of what players are being forced to do in order to make things entertaining for themselves, is to change how the game is supposed to be played, which adds more to the the faulty design of the game. It's an interesting point. Is there anything else you want to chime in on that?
I mean, that's all I really wanted to, get off my chest, say my piece. But I really do think that there is a chance for Dead by Daylight to make a comeback. But really, everyone's going to have to pitch in an idea or two for that.
And give up.
And I like what's happening here.
Yeah, pitch in their ideas and
an actual outlet. Yeah.
That'd be interesting. And then
this is definitely a good step.
And be willing to sacrifice something on their end.
Yeah. Change doesn't happen without sacrifice.
That's a good one. All right, NaXon. Hey, thanks for sharing this with us.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me in this little chat room.
This is gonna be fun. Alrighty, I will catch you. I'll catch you later, buddy.
Yeah, see ya.